Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my 1 year Q&A, which I'm super excited for. So on the day that I'm posting this, it is my 1 year anniversary of being on BookTube, and so I asked on Twitter and Instagram for some questions that you guys wanted answered, and I got quite a few questions, quite a few responses. Asking me some questions that I'm going to be answering right now. So the first question is simply, what's up? I don't know in what capacity to answer this question. Nothing much is up, I'm just filming right now. The next question is, if you could make one video ever, what book would you make it for? And obviously one of the Diviners books. I don't think there's any other answer to that question. What book do you hate most that you put in a video? I actually made an entire video about the Sherlock Holmes series by Brittany Cavallaro, which I genuinely hated most of the series. Pretty much all of them except for the last one I decently liked until the end, so I will link that video like up in the cards and down below if you want to go watch me shit on it. But what book is so bad it will never make it? I don't know in what capacity you want me to answer this question. I have read some bad books, but I feel that most books that I have read have some merit. Most of them do. One that I don't think has that much merit is Did I Mention I Love You by Estelle Mascom. I mentioned it in a wrap-up, and I don't think I'm really going to mention it except in like a series I hate or something, so there you go. What is a book that you love with your whole heart that you've never put in a video? So I did put this in a wrap-up, but I do genuinely love this book so much and I haven't really mentioned it a lot, and that is There's Something About Sweetie by Sandy Manan. Actually, I got an e-arc of this last year in 2018, and it was one of my favorite of 2018. It was the most anticipated release of 2019, and I reread it like when it came out, and I read it on audio, and I loved it so much the second time I read it, and I genuinely love it with all my heart, and I need to mention it more in my videos. Why did you decide to join BookTube? So I decided to join BookTube because I had previously been on Bookstagram for over a year at that point. I started on Bookstagram in April of 2017, and then I started blogging in, I think my first post was made in like June or July of 2017, and then I really started blogging the following year. And then obviously I did that for a while, and then September 18th I posted my first YouTube video, and now we're here. What has been your favorite video to make? So I think specifically like narrowing in on my favorite video to make was definitely my 6 book tag. Because just being able to do all the different moving parts and film it and everything, that was so much fun. But if we're just talking in general, playlist book tags are so much fun to film and to make because you get to kind of like relate the books to music, and it's so much fun. What is your favorite type of video to watch? So my favorite specifically book video to watch is probably wrap-ups, because I like to see everyone's variations of opinions on books, and I just love seeing what people read, getting new recommendations, and that kind of thing. What does your standard reading month look like, including number of books read, number of books physically read, ebook, audio book, etc., ratings, that kind of thing? Specifically in 2019 has been an interesting reading year because I just posted a wrap-up this Sunday that, again, I will link, and I only read 3 books in August. However, I read 20 books in February, so it's just kind of a throw up as to what kind of books I read, and I really don't have a set thing. I generally read more audio than physical, but that's not always the case. It really depends on what the month is like, what I feel, what's going on, all those types of things. So I don't really have a set like what it typically looks like, but I do have a bunch of wrap-ups that I can link down below for you to watch if you're interested. What is the first book that you remember reading? So the first book that I remember reading is probably the Magic Treehouse series by Mary Osborne, and I remember reading this with my mother, and I would read Annie's parts and she would read Jack's parts. I think those are their names, I'm not 100% sure, but Like, we would read back and forth the like dialogue in parts, and that was such an amazing memory. And just that was the earliest book I can remember reading. What book do you want to own more than anything? More than anything, I would like to own a personalized, signed first edition of King of Crows by Libba Bray. Libba Bray, please hit me up. I'm willing to pay for a book that is signed and personalized first edition of King of Crows. Where do you buy your books? So I tend to buy my books from a bunch of different things. I buy on Amazon a lot for pre-orders. I do some Barnes & Noble if there's an exclusive edition I like. For example, the Crow Prince, the first two I preferred in the Barnes & Noble edition, so that's the editions I got them in. But if we're talking about a physical, like, go to the store and buy them, I am either going to go to Books A Million, because it's the closest one to my home, or I'm going to go to Goodwill or any other variation of a thrift store, just because you can generally find some good finds if you know where to look, and they're always pretty cheap, like less than $1 for a paperback, less than $2 for a hardcover. Any tips for new booktubers? I can't say that I have any hardcore tips for new booktubers, just because I still feel like a new booktuber myself. But I can say very much that a lot of my growth, what little growth I've had, but most of my growth has come from when I am active on channels outside of YouTube. So specifically Twitter, when I engage with people on Twitter and stuff, that's when I tend to find more people coming to my channel and subscribing and watching videos and see my views go up and that kind of thing. So be active on different channels other than BookTube or YouTube itself. And also, as far as like making videos goes, find what works for you, find your, like, this editing tool works for me, this schedule works for me, and kind of stick to it. Like, I'm very sporadic. I cannot like plan anything to save my life. I can't do a specific schedule, but I like to post 2 videos a week now. So on my I have my wonderful, you can't see it, but I have a whiteboard calendar, and I circle the days in red that I post or that my posts are scheduled. So find a kind of groove to get into that works for you, and, you know, do what you want to do. Don't think that you have to do anything specific as far as making videos or how to do anything with your videos. It is all about you. So those are my tips. What is the hardest part of being on BookTube? I think the hardest part about being on BookTube is not BookTube itself. It's kind of, when I say I have a YouTube channel, people assuming other things, because the YouTube or the BookTube community isn't that prevalent, and so it's kind of weird when people are like, oh, comedy, beauty guru, that kind of thing, and I'm like, no. This hasn't happened a whole lot, but it is something that has happened, and I think that is the hardest part, is especially being in a community that isn't as recognized. So I think that's my solid answer for that. Would you rather read physical or listen to audio? And I really don't have a preference with this. It just depends on what I'm feeling at the moment, especially when I like don't physically own the book. I tend to read it on audio because it's just easier to get it unscribed or Audible, as opposed to like going through the library and then maybe I don't like it. It's a lot, and it's easier to listen to it on audio. What is the ratio of read to unread books on your shelf? And I only have my college shelf with me. Books I'm bringing to college with me video, by the way, if you haven't watched it. So the ratio is going to be kind of down, but I think this ratio is pretty consistent throughout. So let me count real quick, and I will be right back. 23-8 not counting the library books that I have with me. 29-8 counting the library books that I have with me. I decided to bring a lot more unread with me than read. What book would you want to read but you just haven't found yet? So I'm assuming it's like, describe your perfect book. I think my perfect book, and if you have one, Like, let me know. And I'm going to explain this and do not recommend to me Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst, because that is not what I'm looking for. I have read that and it is not exactly what I'm looking for. I want a horsey story that isn't really fantasy, but also kind of is. Kind of like an urban fantasy with like hardcore LGBT plus main character, a strong relationship, some strong friendships, a nice good plot. Like, put some more on the horsies, fam. Maybe take place in college, that'd be cool. Like, those are some aspects of a book that I'd want. Like, should I write this book? I probably will, but, you know, that's what I want in a book. What surprised you about the community? What surprised me the most about the book community is that there isn't really that much of a barrier between people. So it's obviously, like I previously said, a small community, but I still expected there to be some kind of barrier between the people with a bigger subscriber count as opposed to those with kind of a smaller subscriber count, or even with an almost non-existent subscriber count. But I have gotten replies on Twitter and replies on my comments and likes and watches from people with over like 50,000 subscribers, just as much as I have from people with the same or less subscriber count than me, which, like I said, is not something that I expected, but I really appreciate. I think that because we're such a small community, we kind of have to stick together and support each other. So I do really appreciate that, but it's not really what I expected it to be, which is not a bad thing. I'm glad it ended up being more inclusive than I thought it would be. I think that's the way to put it. What is the worst book that you have ever read? Now, I did a lot of deliberating on this, and I want to say that After was a very, very considered answer for this, but I decided to pick, and this might piss some people off, I decided to pick Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Allaire Sanez, because I hated that book. There was absolutely nothing happening the entire time, like, at all. It was just shit. It was just mush. It was just, like, not, I can't even say it's a slice of life because it was over a year. It was just shit. I hated it more than anything. I didn't like the main character. I didn't like the other main character. I didn't like their romance. It just pissed me off, and it was one of the worst books I think I've ever read, and obviously the worst book I've ever read. And like I said before in this video, I think most books have merit to some degree. I think this has a little bit of merit depending on what you're looking at it for. If you're looking at it as an LGBTQIAP plus and like diversified even more, yeah, it is, because they're two like gay Mexican characters. But if you're looking at it in terms of like plot, there really isn't anything going on there. So just depending on what you're looking at it for, it doesn't have merit. So that's my opinion. It's the worst book I've ever read, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. When did you know this was something that you wanted to do, and how long do you think you'll consider doing it? I really knew, like, in the first few days, in the few days before I filmed my first video, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. This is happening. Like, it's happening now. We're doing it. And that's when I really knew this is what I wanted to do. And as far as when do I think I'll be done, I don't know. I plan to do it as long as I can, because I genuinely enjoy doing this and it's fun for me, but I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. Hopefully I'm doing it for a long time before I decide to stop, but you know, I really don't know. So that's that. And the final question, and perhaps my favorite, was, would you rather be a professional bowler or a professional poker player? I would rather be a professional poker player all the way. First of all, I'm not good at either, but I'm even worse at bowling than I am at poker. And I feel like in poker, I get to lie a lot. And I like that idea of just lying all the time. And I feel like even though I can't really name a professional poker player or a bowler player, I knew professional poker was a thing more than I knew professional bowling was a thing. So that's why I would prefer to be a professional poker player as opposed to a professional bowler. And that's the tea, sis. So those were all the questions that I was asked for my 1 year on BookTube Q&A. You know. Also, some more tidbits about my life because I just turned 18. Interesting times here on the maakbooks channel. Like I said, I just turned 18, so I flexed my rights and got a new piercing. I got a conch piercing on my right side. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can kind of see it there. Actually, when I'm filming this, I just got it last night. I'm in college now. So if you have any questions about that, I mean, leave more questions down below. I'd be great to answer them. Like, I'd be fine with doing that. I had so much fun. I have absolutely no, like, reason to be asked for college advice because I've been here for 3 weeks, but I'll answer your questions anyway if you leave them down below because I like feeling needed in life. That's all I have for you guys today, so let me know down in the comments below what you think, if you have any other questions, if there's anything else you want to see from me on this channel, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you sometime for a new one. Bye!